Hello everyone, today I'm working on this Dash 8 4DC. It's a Bachmann Spectrum and this one is pretty good looking. Actually, can't complain about that. All the handrails are there, the horn is there, the front coupler is there. The rear one is missing, but that's no big deal. I know how to fix that. So these are notorious for cracked gear. This is the Dash 8 4D CW. There's also a Dash 8 4DC, and the Dash 8 4DC is worst for broken gears. Anyways, let's see how it runs. So these are pretty good runners, provided they don't have cracked gears. So we're gonna look into it. I've had these before, they served me well. I just sold them all to buy new Kato ones, that's all. So if you want to just get to the gear, you don't have to take everything apart. You just pop the side frames like that and you can get the gears out. I'm still being careful, but basically you can get right in there just like that, easy as 1, 2, 3. Now I'm gonna do the whole engine because I want to make sure that everything's there the way I like it. And to get into the whole engine, first you gotta remove the fuel tank. You need to have your favorite screwdriver. This happens to go very well. But yeah, if you want to just get into the gears, it's super easy to get in there. Super easy to work on. Yeah, the ones I had, I didn't hate them. I just bought Kato ones, which are a little bit better. This shouldn't fall at this time, so that can't be good. So to remove the shell, again, it's just 2 little screws. These 2 white things that look really impressive, they're just there to hold the fuel tank. Now these little screws, they're major important because they hold your shell together. If you don't have them, every time you touch the engine, your shell fall out. Now this tape here, I think someone else applied this. I'm not sure, that's factory, but it's good, I like it. Also, the lights are on this board here, and it's directional lighting. That's actually a good part. That I've never had one fail. And the motor is good. These motors are real good. They're a little bit small, but they are real good. Also, the worm gear is on the truck. This is a really good design because as the engine turns, this allowed the worm gear to keep its angle perfectly with the spur gear, and that makes them real smooth. So that is actually really good design that I appreciate. So that's the part that fell off, as you can see, and then there's a screw that goes with it. So I don't understand why it fell off like that. It doesn't look to be damaged. Well, maybe a little bit. Stuff happens. Now I keep my videos language free because maybe some kids want to listen to it. When I upload them, they ask me, is the video made for kids? I always say no, because if you say it's made for kids, they disabled the comments, so unfortunately that's the way it's got to be. And then the two other screws, I'll work on that stubborn one off camera. I'm not going to bore you too much with that. Suffice to say, they shouldn't be hard to come out. Same with that, it came out very easy. So this, and then we'll spread out the frame halves. Put them back together. You have to be careful with these, and there's also 3 insulators. Just pop these out very gently. So yes, there's a little spring that helps to contact the motor, and there's a little insulator there. These, you need them, so you want to keep them around. I don't know, am I... Oh, I see. This little widget here is broken. That is not the end of the world. It won't prevent me from running. So, just to recap. The motor is real good. It's got a good size flywheels. These drive shafts are okay. The worm gear is perfect. And it's got also brass bearings. There's also brass bearings on the worm gear. So that, everything's perfect. Right on up to when you get to these gears here, which are garbage and they crack. And then your engine won't run well. I'm just going to try the motor by itself just to see. So, the motor by itself, oh, it's a real sweetie. Whisper quiet. So I am going to lubricate it. I'm going to remove it from here. It shouldn't be very hard to remove. It's just lightly pressed in there, so that won't be hard to remove. There. Now keep in mind the order on which you remove it, because if you put it like this, your locomotive is going to run backwards. So keep that order, and I'm just going to put just a little bit of lubrication in there, just to help it out. So that's all I do. I'll put just a drop in there, and then I'll wiggle it. Let capillarity draw it in. The same thing for the front one. Just let the capillarity draw it in. So I'll wiggle it like that a little bit, and I'll make it work with my electrical wires, my test leads. And then I'll put it right back on the frame, exactly where I found it. There. So that was easy. Then I'll spend a little bit more time on the gears here. This you can do on the engine, actually. You just pull them out like that. And I'll pull the second one out. You will see these plates here. These are your contact plates. I don't spend too much time cleaning them. They work pretty good. I don't know if you saw when I had it on the track, but it did not have any problems picking up power. So I'll just clean them with my finger, and that's good. And you want to get an angle about like so. If your angle is too straight, it will create too much friction with the wheels. And if your angle is too shallow, then it won't touch the frame, and you're not moving either. So these I'll just clean. I think I will clean them because they feel sticky. I will clean them with my dish soap. But these, although they are dirty, they still work good for me today. This one was a little bit too shallow. You want to get a little bit of an angle, but not too much and not too little. So yeah, I'll clean these under my tap. And then I have my wheels. My wheels are back. So this the top spur gear here, that's usually very good. These two gears are usually very good. It's always the axles that cause problems. So I will look at them under a double magnification here, so if I can see, just to see if I can see the cracks. So this engine, it's got a lot of lubrication. I'm not going to remove it. I'm going to run it just like that. But I am going to make sure that my wheels are squeaky clean because, because OCD. I mean, I do feel the train runs better with clean wheels, obviously, but I can't help it. Every time I get a new train, I have to take it apart and clean the wheels. Sometimes even freight cars, I'll clean the wheels. Like I said, it's a little bit of OCD. But they need to get cleaned once in a while anyways. So this first axle is okay. I'll take a look at the other ones. So all three looked real good. Oh yeah, and while I have these in my hands, I'm gonna re-gauge them. And don't forget to put your contact strips, because if you forget them, you will miss them. So we're gonna try this on the bench. So far it's looking real good. You can spin it with your hand a little bit, but you can never get it to spin fast enough. The way they designed these with the worm gear, they have a very low speed. To get the engine to go fast, you have to spin it really high, but the motor's designed for that. So everything's good about this engine. I actually do kind of like them. And I tuned them. I'm gonna try to run it on the bench because I want to see if I'm happy with that. You can run them on the bench even though they don't have their side frames. They will go. Just have to find a way to put my fingers so you guys can see and I don't interfere with the engine too much. And I get my test leads in there and you guys can see. So now I'm touching the worm gear. There. So anyways, this side's going well. Just whisper quiet. And I'm on the minimum power on my power pack, so that little contact strip, I'll put it back in a second. But right now, it's working well. And I will put a little bit of oil on that worm gear because it's brass bushings. And I cannot complain about how that thing runs. It's actually real good. It makes the grade. It's just the stupid broken gears. Okay, I'm gonna go over the other truck set and I'll report for you. Well, I was a little bit worried there, but two of the axles are cracked. I'm sure you can see that crack there. So that, I knew they were cracked because I heard them. I got the second one here that's even more visible. Look at that. So I went on the forums. You can tell they're cracked because the wheels, they don't stick very hard, you know. They feel like it could just so easily fall out. So I went on the forums and I checked it out. By the way, the wheels themselves, are really good. They're machined very precisely, and the train, when the gears aren't broken, rolls very straight. So that, it's a good part. It's just these stupid gears. These stupid gears, there's no replacement parts available. I ordered some stuff from Northwest Short Line for HO. They have a ton of HO stuff, but this gear they don't have. So I went on the forums and I prepared for this. And there was one guy, very patient. He would machine a brass part and put a brass part on here to hold it tight. So I'm gonna try, we're gonna experiment today. I'm gonna try with just putting a drill on the in the middle of it and expanding the hole, and then I can clamp it together with some crazy glue and see if that's gonna hold. That way when I put back my axle, it won't put pressure on the gear. See, it puts pressure on the gear and just opens the crack wide up. Just opens the crack wide. So by drilling the middle and putting some crazy glue, maybe that's gonna work. So we're gonna find out. So 1/16 is exactly the size that the axles have right now. So that's gonna be too small. And then 5/64 looks like it's gonna be just right. So I'm gonna put that in my Dremel and we'll run that and see what happens. My drill was very sharp and it just got in there, got through that like butter. But you want to take your time and make sure you keep the same angle. Otherwise, if your angle gets crooked, the wheels will run wobbly. Obviously, they won't stay in there now. And you can't really do anything about that. Here's what I'm gonna do. Oh, I can see I'm off the center just a little bit. So it might end up running wobbly a little bit. Hey, nobody's perfect. So I'm gonna glue these together and then we'll wait till tomorrow and I'll put the wheels back on it, reassemble everything, and we'll go try it on the track. And I just use some regular clothespins just to keep them tight for them to have time to glue. I'm gonna let these glue the solidify overnight, and then tomorrow we'll put the wheels back on. Well, okay, my glue should have had plenty of time to solidify, and now because my hole is bigger, it won't spread it out anymore. So no more force to spread it out. Now the locomotive, it will ride on this here. This is basically the bearing, this part of the wheel. So although my circle is wobbly a little bit, if I somehow manage to glue it as close to the middle as possible, perhaps the engine won't wobble so much. So I'm gonna crazy glue this in place and I'll wait for it to dry and then put everything back together. We'll see how it runs. So I let them set for about an hour. Now I could put it here in the middle, but then it touches the two idler gears. Or I could put it in the front. Maybe that would be okay, but the weight of the engine supported more in the front. So I will put it at the end like this. That way it shouldn't interfere as much with the other gears. So we'll be able to tell it won't be too long. I'm going to reassemble everything together and then we can test it. So as you put your side frames back, the only thing really that you gotta watch out for is that your contact strips are lined up properly. And then we'll put the other one in. Oh, look at this one, it's bent out of shape. That's no good. If it's too shallow, it won't contact the frame, and if it's too steep, it will prevent you from, it will create more rolling resistance. So you have to give it a little bit of an angle. They're held in there really by the frame. So it's a little bit tricky to get them both in at the same time, but it can be done. I'm going to use my my table as an extra hand. And these, you could probably spin them by hand, but you pretty much need the motor, because the by hand you can't spin them quick enough, but with the motor, that's what it's designed for. So yeah, so you lined up the two contact strips, and then you bring in the other half of the frame. And it will also line up with these, and you have a little plastic insulator. Actually, I'll put that bottom part on there too. That will do what it does. Putting the two frame halves together is basically, it's a little bit tricky. You can look out that these 3 pins are lined up, these 2 pins, and also make sure that your contact strips are positioned correctly, you know, just under the frame. So now I've got it the way that I like it. I'm going to put the 3 screws back in. Need to find my favorite screwdriver. They don't have to be super tight, just hand tight is good. My screwdriver isn't magnetized, but I'm so close to the motor that it kind of becomes magnetized. Alright, so let's go try it on the bench. I could have put the side frames there before, actually. The side frames, I put them last, but I could have put them before. So it's gonna work, but you can see how much this one wobbles. So I consider that a failure. This one still wobbles quite a bit, so I'm not too proud of what I've done. It may still run good on the track. Oh, I'm gonna put just a tiny little bit of lubrication, This thing's already been lubricated quite a lot, but I'm gonna put just a drop on each bearing here. That can't hurt. You can see my bottle of oil is getting empty. So that took 5 years of doing videos to empty that. So the real test is gonna be on the track. I'm gonna put the side frames back on before I go on the track. So I took the time to clean everything up earlier. Actually yesterday I took the time to clean everything up so I would have these nice and neat looking for today. I just used my toothbrush. This one, it just didn't look 100%. There we go. So let's go try that on the track. So it runs, but it takes way too much power to do it. So for me, I consider that a failure. And I'm gonna try something else though. I got another trick that I might like to use. I'm using just about full power. So the engine heats up very quickly when you do that, and that's not very good. So let's try something else. Remember, I don't have to disassemble everything to get to the axles. So I can just remove the side frames, then I can pop out the aft-ending axle. So I popped out the bad axle, and it runs much better now. I bought these tubes as modeling supplies a little while back. I'm gonna make an axle with no gear out of it. Looks like this one's gonna be the right size. I used my bad gears for a template, and I made some axles with no gears. Now I've been wanting to try this technique for quite a while. Now I'm gonna pop them back in, and we'll see how it runs. And now the moment of truth. Oh yeah, it's a big difference. And I'm using a lot less current to make this run. So that means the motor doesn't get so warm anymore. This is actually very satisfying. Alright, so now we can put the shell back on. The frame is pretty symmetrical. The only way you can tell which way is the front is there's an indentation here for the air tanks, and the air tanks go on the engineer's side. So just double check that, you know, this fits properly. So this is the engineer side. Then you can put your shell back on. And then the two little screws. Yeah, you don't want to lose these on the floor. It would be bad. I'll put them on one at a time. gonna put the other wee one. If I can find it, that is. I had to rewatch my video to see where it fell. As they say, if it was a bear, it would bite you. There we go. I don't mind making mistakes on camera. It shows I'm just human. And shows you guys if I can do it, you can do it. So I'll just put these two little screws for the fuel tank. There we go. Perfect. And now it's time to run some trains. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.